No, just try.
Are we ready to start, or should I wait for Steve?
Steve is, I'm trying to promote him. It won't let me promote him. So he's on. It's just taking me a couple of tries to get him. Oh, he's returning up. He should be popping up right now. There he
There
is.
we go. Hopefully.
There you go. Now I can talk.
Can we see you?
I'll turn my-
Okay.
There. Okay, we got 5 members.
Technology.
Make sure you see him.
Are we ready to start?
Yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the January 9th meeting of the zoning board of appeals. I'd like to introduce the 5 members who will be seated here tonight. On my left is a permanent member, Dennis Crowe. I'm a permanent member, Bill Piggott. Dylan's Stella Dylan is an alternate, and he will be moved into a permanent position tonight. Another alternate, John Sire, excuse me, John. He's an alternate, and he will be a permanent member tonight. And Steve Pritchkoff, who's a permanent member, will be with us via Zoom. 4 votes are needed for an application to be approved. In accordance with state statutes, a simple majority is not sufficient. All actions will be taken by roll call. So tonight we will need 4 votes to pass, and that's all that's required out of the 5. The town planner will read the legal notice as advertised in the source. After the applications have been read, anyone who wishes to withdraw or postpone his or her application is free to do so. If there is no one who wishes to withdraw or postpone, we will then go forward with the applications in order in which they appear on the agenda. For each application, the applicant or his or her representative will be promoted to a panelist. They will then state his or her name and address for the record the nature and the reason for the appeal. The applicant may screen share all application materials or request assistance from staff. Any and all items, plans, or pictures shown to the board are considered exhibits, and all exhibits must be provided in PDF or paper copy to the town staff. After the presentation is made by the applicant, we will entertain questions from members of the board and then entertain questions from the audience. Attendees will raise their hand in the Zoom format and wait to be called upon. After questions, those speaking in favor of the application may raise their hand and be heard. Then those in opposition may raise their hand and be heard. Please be sure to state your name and address before you speak. Following any comments by the board or public, the applicant will have an opportunity for closing comments. The public hearing portion of the application can be closed and the board can deliberate. Upon closing of the public hearing, no new correspondence or comments can be received by the board. In most instances, we will make our decision immediately after each hearing. You may stay to hear the result or call the land use office in the morning. You will be notified by mail, and all decisions are published. I guess the opening, I've made the opening remarks, and the meeting will the meeting will continue, and I guess, Maria, you want to read the application here?
Yeah, but first we're going to, the first item was an election of officers, which
Oh,
you
yes.
need to vote to table till next
I
time.
move that we table the election of officers until next month.
Yeah, so do we need a motion?
Yep, you made the motions.
Okay, a second. Second. And this is to table the election of officers until next week.
Okay.
John, second.
John seconded, yeah.
All in favor?
I
Okay. Moving on to the application.
Do we need to formally seat those two people first?
They were already, he seated them when he introduced them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's sufficient.
And we did, yes, we did seat two for an absent member and a vacant position. Do you know, are you presenting, Christian?
I'm good.
Oh, okay, hearing, application number 23-22, 69 Soundview Avenue, map 7, lot 4, R4 zone. Owner Ray Pantalina, applicant Russell Campaign, variance request to section 2.17 to allow 42 feet to a coastal resource where 50 feet is required. This application includes a coastal resource, a coastal site plan review.
If you could share the coastal site plan, site plan, I think I could present with that and then pull anything else up. So, good evening, I'm Russell Campaign, I'm with CK Architects, 131 Boston Street in Guilford, and I'm representing Ray and Mary Beth Angelina, who have purchased 69 Soundview and are looking to take the existing house down and build a new home for themselves as permanent residents. Chuck Mandel from Stevens Engineering has authored the site plan review. I reviewed it with him today and I'm able to present that, but I think you want to separate those two and have the variance first and then the coastal site plan is the second, or, okay. So I don't know how familiar you are with the materials that were presented tonight, but basically the red outline is the existing building that sits on the property right now, and it sits within bisecting the E-zone line that wraps up and around over in this direction. And so it currently is about 32 feet off of the coastal resource, which is an existing concrete seawall that runs along the property on the sound along this edge. In looking at all the various aspects that we're trying to bring into conformity with the way that we redesigned the property, one of the big aspects was moving the septic system up to the front of the property where we had the best soils and the least risk of erosion. So the new septic system is proposed in the front here, which has certain setbacks for utilities and other things to get in. So we have pushed the property, the new proposed building, which is the yellow outline, as close to the front property setback as we can. And we've kind of opened up a little bit to allow our tank and our other setbacks to work to make an L configuration. That's allowed us to move the building about 10 feet further back from the existing conditions. That's outside of the VE zone. So we're in an X zone, favoring the western and northern part of the property. We've also been able to take a non-conforming side setback of the existing non-conforming house and remove that by basically having a conforming setback on the western side of the property. And also on the eastern side of the property, we've removed a patio that's in non-conformity on this side and brought it into conformity with the layout. So in general, I think the property itself has some hardships associated with non-conforming septic, a VE zone that sort of bisects and wraps around the site in kind of an odd way, leaving a very small area of high ground for us to build on. And I think we've done a good job to minimize the existing nonconformities in our new proposal. Plus, the new home will be fully compliant with FEMA, fully compliant with building code. It will have a compliant septic system. So I think in general, we're in keeping with the plan of conservation and development, the proposal. All we're asking for is an 8-foot setback reduction for the coastal site plan. I also will point out that with the seawall, I think in this particular case, and with a septic move to the front of the property from the existing conditions, as well as the proposed requirements for us to handle all of our roof drainage in the subsurface drainage system on site, all these measures really replace some of the concerns associated with the coastal site plan, which is meant to protect the sound from erosion and other things along those lines. So I think the site conditions actually lend itself for some relief from this as well, just because we're greatly benefiting and controlling compared to what's there now, but we're also have this hard seawall that really protects both during construction and post-construction from the risks associated with proximity to the sound. So with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the variance.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Did I get it correctly? There are three reductions in nonconformities?
Two primary, the biggest one is that we're reducing and eliminating a non-conforming side setback. The patio on this side, I don't think really counts toward the setback. It is a hard patio that's a little high as a terrace, but I think we're below the line. So I think on this side, we're not reducing a nonconformity on the other side property line. And then we're 10'6" further back from the coastal
Okay,
resource.
Septic doesn't count then, is it? Not.
Yes, it's not conforming with
That's-
regard to zoning. It's
Right.
not conforming with regard to health department.
Okay. Okay, so that's we received this, what, today, this color version, or was that yesterday? But it's much easier to explain, to read it than the black and white one, so.
Okay.
I was able to take a look at it.
Yeah.
So I will note that there were, we got some feedback from Trent and the sanitarian today, actually made two minor modifications. They don't really have any impact. We had to make a change to the second floor plan associated with whether a room was considered a bedroom or not. And there was originally a note associated with a geothermal well that wasn't, we don't think we're going to go in the direction of geothermal. We sort of had it as a placeholder. He wanted more information we couldn't provide until we had a designer on board for that. So we removed that and resubmitted today, which are the plans that we gave.
Okay.
So they don't really impact the coastal site plan. If we do decide to go in geothermal, if we get proposals that are reasonable, we'll come back for a modification to the site plan review if we pursue the geothermal well.
Okay. That's all I've got in that part. Anybody else?
Anybody else with questions?
Yeah, can you do a bit more in depth on what you're claiming the legal hardship to be for this application?
Well, we don't have to have a legal hardship really, actually with the reduction of nonconformities that we have in the proposal, because it is an existing nonconformity. But from a vantage point, but from a vantage point of what I see is as the nonconforming, the existing hardships associated with the property, the V zone line that wraps around the property and sort of bisects it really leaves a very small portion of this property that's buildable in a way that's reasonable without huge costs and risks and lack of resilience. And I think that is the primary unique aspect. I think, though, we're also inheriting an existing house that is an existing non-conforming house that we're greatly decreasing the existing non-conformity. So, but
Okay. But you are demolishing it, like,
Yeah.
the building?
Is that lot and house, was that built in pre-zoning?
it's not pre-zoning, I don't think, but it is pre the coastal, critical coastal resource setback.
Okay,
So that aspect of the house and its location was built prior to the requirement of the critical coastal resource. So it was, subsequently a non-conforming lot.
John, do you have any questions?
Just one question. In the application said, the house, the large existing house and so forth, move the home out of the V13 zone and into the X zone. I don't quite understand how that works out in the two, the current house and the new house.
So the V zone line, and it is strange. Most mapping goes to an AE zone of stormwater flooding and then an X zone. This particular area goes directly from a VE zone to an X zone. There is a pretty significant grade change between this portion of the site and this portion of the site, but that is a little unique in the FEMA mapping. But there's a line that comes right here on the page and then wraps up here. And on this side, it's higher ground and in the X zone. So that is an unmapped zone under FEMA. And on this side, which crosses the building right here and crosses this area here, is in the VE13 zone. So we actually, because we're up on this high ground, would even be conforming. We're at 15 for finished floor elevations. So it's just naturally the grade is sort of going diagonally in this direction. And I guess that would read into the hardship as well, associated with the lot is, it does have this low lying area and then this very small area that's reduced by its setbacks that we're allowed to build. So there is a grade change that's unique. It happens to be represented also with the E zone line that kind of bisects and pushes us to that small area, buildable area on the property here.
Hypothetically, if you don't get your variance, how would would you be able to construct a similar house?
Not a similar house the same scale that we have here. This is about 2,700 square feet of livable plus a 500 square foot garage. I think that's a reasonable size full-time house. It's not as though they're trying to overdo it in a way, but it would be very hard to shape and provide all factors associated. We tried to minimize our impact, on where we're locating this. I think we'd have to reduce the scale to still be able to get the septic, meet all the other setback requirements. Because we're sort of shaping it around the septic and the setbacks for the septic in the way that it sits here and the way that the septic is and it requires its setback and utility entrances. We're meeting setback on this side and we're right up against setback on this side. So there's something has to give. And I think from our vantage point, the coastal setback, given all the other measures we're investing into the property to minimize concerns associated with it, that is the place to give rather than, I could come before you and ask to maintain our side property setback at, I could be asking for 3 feet relief from our side setback from the property and probably gaining you 2 feet or 4 feet in our, I could play games, but this seemed like the most sense to ask for relief associated with the critical coastal resource. We're meeting the zoning setback for the rear property line. We're just not meeting the critical coastal resource setback. And from our vantage point, and even if you had time to read the letter from the DEP, I was very surprised how positive their feedback was. They even actually spoke to the variance in support of it, the DEP, because we're doing all these other measures to bring the property into greater conformity with the coastal resource concerns, which is what they're overseeing as an advisory role.
Okay, that's all I have.
On that drawing, the driveway's on our left side there, and
The driveway is actually currently a loop, and we're maintaining that. So it's got 2 accesses right here that come through with a green area in the middle. So there's sort of a parking pull off in this area, a loop driveway that comes through, and then this portion of the yellow is our garage. So that has frontage access here, and then the front door entrance is in this area here.
okay. And where did you say the septic is?
So this is the blue right here is the septic. So there's the tank and then
So
the field
driveway
is over top of it.
at the top.
Yeah, so it'll be constructed for H20 loading, so we can bring trucks and other things in there. But that really was the first thing that happened. The testing on the property was the location we had the soils and the groundwater conditions to allow us to have a conforming septic. But we also have, you have to have 10-foot utility easement setbacks. We have a propane tank we have to fit. There's just a lot that tries to get into these properties. So there's a lot of pieces to juggle. And, as I said, we did try to bring it completely within that 50-foot setback. I will also point out, actually, so I did the design for this property for the former owners, which were the Stefanowskis. They actually live next door. So they were going to build this out as their primary residence. They decided to change it, sold it to friends, actually, the Pantalinas, but, I actually gained approval 2 years ago for the site plan based on the critical coastal resource being measured to the high tide line. Since the change in the planner, there's been a change in how they are measuring the critical coastal resource setback. So we were conforming and would have been conforming under that and actually have an approval for a coastal resource on the property for a similar design in a similar location. But in the 2 years, there's been an administrative change in their interpretation of the where it should be measured has changed. So that's why we're also before you. I will say that I think that her interpretation is correct. It is how other towns have been in my experience, have been measuring it. But it kind of put us in a little bit of a circumstance because the owner purchased the property thinking they had an approved coastal site plan. But the rules kind of changed. So not that that really weighs in on you much, but it does give a little bit of context, to the situation that it is. It's just whether the stone riprap is considered part of the coastal resource or whether it's part of the seawall is kind of it's a man-made structure, but it has become habitat. So that's the sort of, that's the 8 feet that we're asking for to some extent.
Anybody else got any questions on the drawing? Because I was going to the application else.
The only comment I'll make is in the application, and this is,
Can we go over the application? Can we bring it up?
Sure.
I want to bring it up on the display.
yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, because I want to go over it
Okay,
quickly.
yeah,
Sure.
we can bring it up.
Not that I have an issue, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, sure, sure. The question I have on the application, and this is just in the wording, if you go down to Marie, if you go down to page 2, and you see where it says under 6A, it says bringing the west property line and the CCR setback into conformity.
Yeah, it should say greater conformity.
So it's, right, it should say it's in greater conformity on the CCR setback. And it's also wrong on the coastal resource. It says on the coastal resource report, it says bringing the west property line and CCR setback into conformity. So the CCR setback should say setback into more conformity.
Closer to something.
Which,
Yeah, so that's,
what page is that for that?
It's just
So
a clerical
It's
error.
it's 8 feet.
That I got. What was you just?
Oh,
I thought you-
that's in the,
CCR.
Coastal site plan
CCR,
application
yeah.
too? Okay.
I think he just copied and pasted.
Oh, okay.
Dennis, do you have any questions on the application?
I just wanted to go through it quickly, just to,
Here, you want to see it?
I'll
Okay.
bring it up here. So scroll up a little because there was
Which way, what number do you?
I'm
want?
sorry. Go, 6, 7. Number 7.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, so. So the second line is just a comment there, the structure will be 42 feet, that's not a section or a variance request.
So this is recognizing a transition in the way that variances will be granted in Madison before.
Right,
You
yeah.
used to do it, how much you were giving relief, and then now it's what
It just
the actual
states-
setback will
Just,
be.
just,
So that's why it's said both ways.
yeah, okay, down below it explains. These to the flood zone. That brings CCR towards conformity.
Yeah,
Closer to
here.
conformity. Maintaining septic system setbacks. And the existing non-conforming CCR setback increased to the existing non-conforming square footage. CCR, okay.
This is just talking about the area of house that's in the current
Within-
non-conforming zone.
Yeah.
We're reducing by 269 square feet and then 139 square feet in the side setback.
All the zoning permits be in compliance. Okay. So we'll just site plan review required, move to the front zone. Yeah, the rest of them I think are all notes, aren't they?
Mhm.
Right, so then you get something. So you get the actual statements of building heights and everything, notification, property owners, you saw the letter. Things in the attachments.
Yep. That's all been submitted.
Okay, and, okay. All right, so if we take a look at the coastal site plan review, whatever, all these things.
Critical coastal, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's all right.
Yes, coastal site plan
There we go. Yeah,
review or CAM.
We'll look up.
Do you want to look at the plan or the application?
the application. Scroll this through this pretty quickly too. So, site plan for zoning compliance, that's the only thing marked there. Waterfront site, yes. Adjoining properties, subject property located in flood zones, entirely within X 2%. Okay. Area site is 1,000, not disturbed, 500 total acres. No description, intent is to bring that non-conforming, replace it with a conforming home with respect. Yeah, it's not technically fully conforming, right? Because it's 50-foot setback. Right, so the existing previous coverage. site-
Well, with the exception of the 50-foot coastal resource. So that's,
Yeah, okay, I see that, yeah. Okay. Conforming except, yeah. Which will require 8-foot variance. Existing impervious coverage, decrease in imperviousness. Construction, it's a new one on me. Commence upon approvals, okay, good, move on. Currently no provision for runoff on site, it's just rainfall. They're okay with that. All right, go ahead. And this was hazard and coastal waters, just about everything else. So, oops, shorelands, yeah, we got a definition. All right, so they came up, consistency, 42 feet from the closest portion, so that's 8 feet within the, less than 50. All right, okay, so general development. And consistent with the capability of land and water resources to support use. Yep. Then everything down there was not applicable. And filters, fabric sediment barrier, yeah. Okay. No remaining adverse impacts. So it's good. All right. We have Deep's response. Should go over that just to make cursory check.
So we covered the actual variance, so you're ready for him to cover the coastal site plan portion? Since we have
Yes.
deeps. Up here.
Yes. Okay, so if you want to,
So you're mixing the two.
I don't,
Would
I
you-
mean,
Would you want to have public comment before?
well, I don't know if why do you want to look at it now, or do you want to wait until?
okay, we
Yeah,
can wait.
okay.
Yeah, that's true.
If there are no more questions by the board, I'll open. Are there any public comments for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application?
Do we have anybody on the?
Screen?
Do we have,
Hold on, gotta get back up on the screen.
Okay.
There's one
Since
person-
there,
There's one person in attendance, but they're not raising their hand.
okay,
Oh, they're raising their hand.
okay.
Well, that's the
Somebody-
owner.
Somebody named Ray.
He's just waiting.
Does he want to speak?
No.
Huh?
You might.
all right, are there any public comments
What-
from
Wait,
anyone?
wait.
Which,
We have our hand raised.
does he want to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Pantalino,
Yes,
did you want to speak?
Okay, sorry.
Did you want to make a comment?
no, I was just acknowledging that I was in attendance.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
Any public comments from anybody wishing to speak opposing the application?
very well.
Anybody? Okay. If there are no further, are there any further questions by the board? No? Okay. Is there any correspondence received into the record by name and date? Not, we don't necessarily have to read it into the record, can read relevant excerpts if desired. Is there any other correspondence?
There was no letters that I received in favor or against.
Are there any final comments from the applicant?
Sure. There is a comment on a DEP letter that supports the variance, actually. So I wouldn't mind that being part of the record because I think that's a little unusual.
Sure.
And it does, since it is the critical coastal resource, I think the DEP's comments are applicable. Can you, yeah, if you can pull that up, I'll be. It's at the last conclusions. They just speak to saying that they feel that the variance is justified, given improvements that are being proposed. So here, the applicant seeks a variance for the proposed structure being within the coastal setback. This variance request highlights the need to balance construction requirements with environmental considerations, particularly in a coastal area. So I think it's not directly positive, but it is sort of speaking that the commentary up here is basically not drawing conclusions that the relief from the coastal resource is going to threaten sound. I think that's
Are there any final comments from the public?
No problem.
I need a motion to close the public portion of the hearing and to deliberate the application. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion aye,
Aye.
passed. All right, Dennis, would you like to deliberate on the application, your opinion?
Okay, this looks like a pretty clear case of reducing a side setback and reducing a coastal resource requirement, and I think it's a benefit to everybody. So, see a problem.
I would be inclined to support it. I think that the applicant has done a pretty good job of balancing the various stakeholders involved in the property. I think like the way the land is configured with the E line, like kind of severely limits how the house could be designed and where the septic system could go. I definitely agree there. So I think you do have hardships, but even still, just the reduction in nonconformities, I think, is sufficient. So I'm to support the application.
Joe?
I have no further comment in addition to what everybody has already said, so I would support the application.
I can't add anything more. I think it's been well said.
There's
by
Steve.
the members here.
Don't forget Steve.
Oh,
It's okay. I don't mind being a fly on the wall, but I kind of agree with everybody's comments. This one is, I leaning towards that, their reduction in, nonconformity, comments and been made by everybody else I agree with, and I would support this application.
and I have nothing to add. I would support it. I think it's been well stated here. Obviously with the reductions in the nonconformity, so I would support it.
And we need a motion to close the deliberation. So moved.
Okay, second, to close the deliberation portion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we need a motion to grant or deny, or grant with conditions or deny the variances. So we have to state the reason for the record. So who wants to?
I'll take a shot at it. And make a motion, we approve the application 2322 for replacement of the home at 69 Soundview Avenue, where the variance requests for section 217. The variance request is to allow section 217 to be have a nonconformity of 42 feet to a critical coastal resource where 50 foot is required. And this would be approved based on the fact that there is a reduction in side setback, elimination of a side setback, and a substantial reduction of the critical coastal resource nonconformity from 32 feet to 42 feet. So we
I
ought
think we
to
gotta add that.
all construction must be in compliance with the plan submitted and upon acceptance of conditions approved from planning and zoning. Additionally, I move that the coastal site plan application, I can't hear you.
We're not at the coastal site plan one yet, so.
Okay, so I will stop it at that point.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'm all second.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed, and congratulations.
Now the coastal application.
I'm going to bring up the deep root rating.
Sure, we can go through that and then I go over the plan. So the DEP letter response, which is advisory to you, came in today. And I think in general has no negative comments associated with it. It reviews the proposal and shows that it was thoroughly reviewed. And the conclusions, I think, are all positive and supportive of the variance, feeling as though our protections and measures taken will protect the sound, even with the limited coastal setback. So are there any questions or anything that we want to particularly go over on this? I can pull up the plan and sort of go through the measures we're proposing both during construction and after construction to protect coastal resources.
Yeah, just run through real quickly.
Sure.
Yeah.
The plan?
If,
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think we ought to at least have it
Absolutely.
presented.
Sure.
Before we,
I'm,
Good point.
the letter from the DEP, I can't reiterate, I haven't gotten as clean a response from them on any coastal site plan review. So I don't know what's happening. It's, we must have done a very nice job with it, I guess. So the existing seawall that is across here is a pretty hard barrier associated with any type of infiltration that comes through. There's an existing sandy area that's in this area that's not natural. It was put in as a beach area. We're planning to actually put topsoil on that and vegetate that. So that will allow for some, when it's done, some additional filtration and protection and a little bit more root structure to protect against erosion in that area. The other big change that's happening on this side is we're proposing to collect all the roof water as well as the drainage on this half of the property into a subsurface drainage system that will be collected and not surface flowed, which is the condition now. All the roof water and drainage off the driveway basically just surface flows into this area. During construction, he calls out self-fencing along this property line, which will be maintained during construction and inspected as is traditional. And then if we already have discussed that we're going to take out an existing septic that dates to the 50s, I believe, and put in a new high-tech conforming septic system on the high side of the property, which really is not threatened in any way by scour or potential storm damage. So it is, I think, in a much better place. And by putting it right 10 feet off the property line, we have as much time to allow the natural systems to work before it comes to the sound. So in all ways, I think we've done a good job to sort of position things and prioritize them to protect the sound. I think, you know, he's got the calculations for the drainage, the septic system design. We have a letter from Trent approving the 4-bedroom septic design. So I think that sort of checks the boxes associated with the coastal site plan review, unless there's particular questions as to how we're.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I got no questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Looks good.
It's a good presentation. I think the only business that's left is we have to
approve this.
we have to approve this one.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the coastal?
Got the words there? Got the words?
Yeah.
I move-
It's right there.
Yeah. I move that for the application 2322, it's 69 Soundview, that the coastal site plan application is consistent with the goals and policies of the Coastal Management Act and should be approved.
I'm all second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Again, congratulations.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Now, the only other business is to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Yes.
So I wasn't present, so I'm gonna check myself.
Okay.
John, you were here, right?
Yeah, you were.
Steve, you were here, yeah.
Yes,
Last month, yeah.
Want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's it.
Let it be written, let it be done.
Motion to adjourn.
I move.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we have to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Go out in the rain and
Thanks, Steve.
yep, no problem. Yeah.